Ultras improved your favorite arcade game. First, we added 2 new levels, then packed it with bigger, stronger enemies, and a ton of extra foot soldiers. Next, we punched up the action with knockout new attack moves and crime-fighting scenes like the Ninja Castle. If that doesn't swell your shell, we made one more small adjustment. Introducing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game for your NES.
And check out a totally new Game Boy game, Turtles 2, Back from the Sewer. Get coming soon!
We now present Turtlecast, a six-part podcast delving into the history of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Hey, I'm Brandon.
Hey, it's Jimmy.
And Billy.
And Mike. And we are here for yet another episode of Turtlecast. We took a little bit of a hiatus since we last met up because me and Jimmy had to do some globe-trotting. Jimmy was in California and Las Vegas. I was in New York, and I was stuck in Philly for over a day. That was fun.
And I was stuck in my basement.
You all in your goddamn travel. It was a thing, but I don't think there's any traveling for me in the near future because I had like the travel day from hell. But there has been some news that has transpired since then I wanted to bring up before we get into today's topic. It has been officially announced that there's going to be a new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon based on the Mutant Mayhem movie. It's called Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's been announced for 2024. I'm going to guess it's going to be on Paramount Plus. I mean, because streaming is the future.
That announced. Yes, yeah. I think they kind of cleared that up. Yeah.
And also since then, Billy watched Mutant Mayhem. What did you think?
About what I had originally said, honestly, Jimmy had said previously, it wasn't made for me.
Do you like the action?
What's that?
What do you think about the music? Yeah, the music.
The music was fun.
I love the music. Love the music.
It was pretty cool.
I think the music and the action in that movie is really, really top notch.
They work together really well. Like the No Diggity scene, the music in those scenes actually work together really well.
That part was fun. Yeah, I'll give you that.
What are you laughing at, Jimmy?
Does Billy will coin a phrase, he'll say it in a certain way to make me laugh. Anyways, go ahead.
Also, I want to paint a really quick word picture for our viewers because you can't see how we're recording this today. We set up our podcast studio a little bit differently today. And, of course, later we're going to be talking about the toy empire that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is all about. And Jimmy has stacked toys all the way on top of this table. I can't see Jimmy at all. I just see a big Raphael looking at me. So it's going to be weird for me. I'm just putting that out there. But anyway, back to Billy. I just had to talk about the elephant in the room for a minute.
Real Wizard of Oz vibes going on.
Yes.
There's really not much more to say about it. I mean, you all talked about the gist of it. Our last cast, anyways. I didn't like the words that I didn't.
I hate words too.
Specifically, what words?
Dialogue.
Yeah, the
dialogue.
The dialogue that I couldn't understand.
Yes,
it gets very teenish, and as Mike said last time, it's very New York slang.
Yeah, a lot of it's full of the specifically that bacon, egg, and cheese scene that seems to be.
I hate that scene so much.
Annoying. A lot of people seem to have that reaction.
It wasn't very,
which is like understandable because I didn't get the New York stuff until I saw somebody explain that on social media.
Right. Well, you have a child, so you would understand a little bit more of what they say in this movie.
But he's also 9, so he's not exactly running around with like teenager slang. He doesn't say no cap or anything like that. At least not in our conversations anyway.
That's good. I still don't know.
I just learned the other day what the Riz means.
Oh, really? What is
it's short for charisma.
I told you all this.
But how does
you
that,
did?
Yeah, I think I had this conversation.
But how does that work
in
a conversation?
It's just like, he's got the Riz. I think it's like when you're like hitting on
special.
You're hitting on somebody that you're interested in. Like, he got the Riz. Okay. Are you guys going to watch this TV show, Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mike?
I mean, I'm definitely going to watch it if nothing else, just out of general curiosity. They haven't really said too much or shown anything other than a logo. Given the name, I'm assuming it'll probably be like a little standalone story.
That's what I was about to say. The comic was more kind of standalone when it came to
and then
Tales.
even the final season of the 2012 series, which they dubbed Tales of the Ninja Turtles, which gave nice little like 2 to 3 episode arcs with different stories. So they could do stuff like that, and it would be fun. I personally would like to see an actual story that bridges the gap between Mutant Mayhem and whatever the second movie's going to end up being called. But if nothing else, out of curiosity, I'll definitely watch it. I mean, I watched Rise.
Yeah.
So
that's true. Billy, are you going to watch the show at all?
I'll probably check it out. because I do have streaming services now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I moved up in the world.
Jim, welcome to the future,
Yeah,
baby.
yeah. I went away from cable, and now I can watch. I got Paramount Plus, and I can
This is what cable's done, people.
exactly. I
When
can,
Billy moves up, you know it's time.
Yeah, it's
You were just telling me about a Western you were watching.
I was.
You
What
were.
Western were you watching?
Seven Guns of the Magnificent North.
Oh, okay.
Or something like that. Guns of the Magnificent Seven. That's what it was.
Was Burt Reynolds in it?
No,
He's in a lot of those old
but it's
westerns.
George Kennedy and James Whitmore were.
Okay.
The wonders of streaming in 2023.
Right.
Yes, and Murder She Wrote.
Jimmy, are you going to check out Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
If it's free on my TV, I will check anything out once.
I'm definitely gonna check out at least the first 2 or 3 episodes. That's usually how I do TV shows and comics anymore. If it's something new, I give it 2 episodes to at least kind of fill it out, see how it is. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. More Turtles is always a good thing in my book. Now, in episode 3, I gave you gentlemen some homework that ended up being super entertaining, if you ask me. So I decided to come up with another homework assignment for us today before we start to talk about one of our main topics today. If you could pull out your time scepters and travel back in time to the early 1990s, I'm going to make you the Playmate. I'm going to make you the president of Playmate Toys. You have all the power when it comes to the development of TMNT toys, which are selling like hotcakes right now. My mission for you is to come up with a new TMNT toy line. There's been a lot of lines, so come up with something new. But remember, this is the 1990s. This toy line has to be something that would sell in the 90s. It could be a crossover with another franchise from that time. It can be something weird. It can be pretty much anything you want. Also, give me some examples of the figures in your line. So I am going to start this out with Billy. Tell me about your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle line of the 90s.
Some of y'all might be familiar with it. The Inhumanoids.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Go on.
all my turtles,
I'm interested.
all my turtles and characters are going to be like demonic looking. And
Yeah.
they're going to have like you're going to be able to like open up their chest and have like skulls in them.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
I like that.
Yeah.
I would buy that. I would buy that.
Yeah.
Do you have any like examples of any of them in particular?
Since mutagen's a big thing with turtles and whatnot, I would have it to where you could like take some slime and put it in their back.
Okay.
Like, let it slide through and come out.
Oh, they
like that.
will love that in the 90s,
Ooze
right?
out their, ooze down their chest and down their groin area.
Remember those
Everywhere.
sweating figures the WWE put out back in the day?
Man, 1999
Yeah.
was a horrible year.
Terrible.
Yeah.
God. All right, Mike, tell me about your toy line.
All right, so thinking early 1990s, as Brandon already prefaced everything, and I wanted to make something that I knew in no way would ever get made. Not back then, not now, just because they would never put these two things together. So I am going to do a little crossover with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the Wu-Tang Clan.
Oh, forever.
Think about it, if nothing else, also based out of New York, wildly popular in the early 90s, and more than enough members to where all 4 of our turtles and then some will have somebody to be based off of. So I went ahead and wrote them down real quick. I've got Donatello as the RZA, because RZA's known for being the intelligent one. Shredder as the Jizza.
Oh.
Because Jizza has albums referred to as liquid swords.
Yeah,
so
right.
there's the little connective tissue there. Inspected Deck would be Bebop. And I went with that because the older he gets, Inspected Deck looks a lot like J.B. Smoove.
Oh, yeah. And
So that's why he's
the voice of
Bebop.
Bebop in the 2012 series.
Raekwon, right? Raekwon would be Michelangelo because Raekwon was the chef, and so was Michelangelo in certain iterations. You got as Rocksteady because he was left over by the time I got done doing all this.
Sometimes that's that.
Right, and then Ghostface Killer is Raphael because he's the angry one. And
I knew that. That's the one I didn't know was going to be.
And Method Man is Leonardo because whether it's Saturday or night, he's the leader.
Yep.
So that would be my toy line.
And tell me your toy line tag name or whatever. Tagline.
I'm assuming it could only be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles ain't nothing to with.
There we go. There we go. That's exactly what I wanted. Jimmy, you want to go next?
Sure. As we'll talk later when I start talking about toys, I've never been much on mashups. So stuff, we had Transformer Turtles, we had Cobra Kai Turtles, things kind of approaching G.I. Joe Turtles. None of that was ever really my thing. What I wanted was reasonable facsimiles of what I saw either in the cartoon or in the movies, and NECA has given us that, so I'm pretty happy. But I needed to pick something. So I picked trick-or-treating turtles.
Oh, fun!
Mask and smock. The turtles as is, but wearing childhood mask and smock Halloween costumes and carrying trick-or-treat bags. Maybe we could have Donatello as Dracula.
Oh, that's awesome.
And these are kind of references to the Universal line as well.
Right, yeah.
Leonardo maybe a zombie, Mikey is a clown, a reference to the birthday Homie the Clown.
Homie the Clown turtle was just staring at me right now.
Maybe
turn him away.
maybe Raphael got saddled as a fairy. So maybe he's a tooth fairy.
And have him be angry about it.
He would be very mad. He'd be the whole time. Maybe April's a witch. Something nice like that. And this is weird because I wrote this down a week ago, and today NECA has just announced they're doing Ben Cooper trick-or-treating kids. And NECA also has the rights to Ninja Turtles.
So it could happen.
And when asked, is it possible? I did watch an interview with Pixel Dan. He's like, is it possible we could see some sort of mix of your other licenses? And they're like, maybe. So it's very possible that at some point we'll see Ninja Turtles wearing Ben Cooper outfits, or we'll see little kids dressed as Ninja Turtles from the 80s. So it's very possible that my third dream line will also be a reality.
Nice. You heard it here first. Now, my line, I feel like, is one of the most obvious lines. So much so that I Googled to see if they'd done it before, and they hadn't. So I felt like it was my duty to come up with what I call the TMNX line. Or shall I say, the Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's right, it's an X-Men line. We are crossing over the two biggest mutant franchises, and we're going to go for broke, because in the 1990s, X-Men was even more popular than it was today. You see, in the early 90s, in 1991, X-Men #1 came out by Chris Claremont and Jim Lee, and it sold the most copies of a single comic book that stands to this day, over 8 million. So here is my line. I've got quite a few characters, but I'll go pretty quickly. We're going to start with Leonardo. He is going to be Cyclops because he's the leader.
That's fair.
I'm thinking full body outfit in the visor, but instead of like a yellow visor, have it be a blue visor because it's Leonardo. For Raphael, I think that's another obvious one. Wolverine. Have him in the yellow costume, but I still want that red bandana.
Do we have size or claws?
So that was my next thing. For your claws, you have the size. Like, you have the size in between his fingers.
The way he'll hold them.
Yeah, and they look like claws, and that's how you... Nice. And it'll just be attached to the figure itself. Donatello is going to be Beast, because he's kind of the smart one of the bunch.
I'll be honest, I expected Gambit because of the...
Yeah.
I did. Gambit was somebody I wanted to use, but I never really found a spot for him. But yeah, Beast, I just felt like was more Donatello, because they have the intelligence, the kind of the scientist way about him. I want my Donatello big, blue, and furry, but with the purple bandana. I want my bandanas in these.
I think you said Gambit is Casey Jones or something, maybe.
That would actually be.
Yeah.
That's actually a great idea.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and steal that.
Yeah.
I want Casey, because I didn't put Casey Jones down. I want Casey Jones to be Gambit.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Michelangelo is the one that I want to see the most, probably.
Hold on a second now. All right, so Gambit and Casey Jones. Now I'm hearing Clint Eastwood trying to speak French.
No,
Yeah.
Cajun. Cajun.
Mon
ami.
Sorry, didn't mean to.
Oh, no, that's fantastic. Michelangelo is, I think, my favorite figure of the bunch, because I want him to be Iceman, because Iceman was always kind of the goofy one. But I want him to be like the old Iceman figures that are transparent.
Oh, nice.
So you have basically blue, transparent Michelangelo with the orange bandana.
Well, of
Like I
course.
said, I want all the bandanas still to remain firm.
Could we make the nunchucks out of ice?
We can't. Everything can be made of ice.
Nice.
Next up, we have April O'Neil. Like, after making Casey Jones Gambit, I want her to be Rogue, but I'm going to stay with my original, which is Jean Grey / Phoenix.
Fair.
I just imagine that awesome Phoenix outfit, but with the jacket, with the April O'Neil jacket on there as well. Fire coming out of her hair and everything. I think that'd be badass. Splinter's obvious, Professor Xavier. It's just Splinter in that big yellow chair. I love that big yellow chair. It's the only thing I liked about that Doctor Strange movie from a year or so ago. I love that chair. Shredder's Magneto. That's so obvious as well.
Yeah,
because of the.
That would be fun.
And think of the helmet, because I want to mix the Magneto helmet with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Secret of the Ooze helmet.
Samurai
That big buzzsaw.
Yeah.
And I just think that could be really, really
See,
awesome.
now I want that to be like an actual like cartoon I watch, because thinking of how those two powers would work together.
Yeah.
And then he wouldn't die in a barge.
No,
because he has the power of magnetism.
exactly. Yeah,
He wouldn't have even died in the trash truck.
No,
Exactly.
Broke out of that.
they wouldn't have died at all.
Right.
The Foot Clan will be little sentinels.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
I mean,
I like that a lot,
they're,
actually.
they're robot killing machines, of course.
Yeah.
I think this is the most interesting design I have. It's for Krang. I like the idea of Krang being Mr. Sinister.
Okay.
Ooh.
So I'm thinking the big marshmallow man with the stripped cape,
The streamers and whatnot.
Yes, the streamer cape, which I freaking love. But also I want the Krang, in the belly to be white with all the makeup and the little jewel in there as well. I just think that it needs to have Mr. Sinister's color scheme. And I just think if that could be. I don't think it would look as dopey, like the body. I think it would be a lot more, pun intended, sinister looking.
Mr. Sinister,
The design I'm seeing in my head as you explain it looks pretty cool.
Mr. Sinister is one of my favorite villains.
He's great.
Yeah.
One of my buddies actually got a Mr. Sinister tattoo the other day, and it's really cool.
Nice.
Well, welcome once again to another episode of Turtlecast, where four middle-aged Mutant Ninja Turtle fans talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for 4 whole hours and then turn it into 2 episodes. Yeah, the movie episode got away from us, and I want to thank Jimmy for editing those.
Oh yes.
But it really seemed like cracking into 2 was probably the best option.
It was the best.
I hope people enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And before we started the podcast, we made it 6 episodes just in case something like that happened. So don't worry, we're still going 6 episodes.
There's huge news in the sewer. The Mini Mutants. It's Toko with a sneaky surprise. A mini technodrome with mini mutants all its own. In the Turtle Tenderizer Chamber, Mini Shredder has painful plans for Raph. Up top, a Mini Bebop's keeping an eye out. There's looking at ya. But Leo's got it totally covered. It's Leo's Turtle playset with some big mini surprises of its own. Like a cool sewer sculpt and Mini Leo and Mike. Whoa, there's even a place for you, Shredder. Teenage Mutant Mini Mutants.
Today, I am going to take a step back, and everyone's favorite Donatello and Raphael will be steering the ship this evening. A little later, Mike is going to give us a tour of something he's very passionate about, the TMNT video games. But first, Jimmy is going to give us a history lesson on a subject he knows a thing or two about. The toys. The TMNT toy line. Take it away, Jimmy.
So starting off before I jabber on like a monkey in a tree, I just want to ask everyone here, what are your memories, earliest memories? Billy will probably have the most, since he's just as old, almost as old as me, of the Playmates toys. What's your first memories of the Playmates toys?
I guess the little bitty weapons that they all came with that were very easy to lose.
Weren't they usually like orange or something?
Yeah,
They were all
orange.
solid colored. Like
they were, and
orangey
you had
brown.
and they came in.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
they
Jimmy
came-
showing us Michelangelo.
They came in like
The weapons rack.
a rectangle weapons rack, and you had to punch them out yourself.
Yep.
And you had to attach them, and they were very easily lost.
Right.
Very easily lost. And
Or broken. Here's a piece of a nunchuck.
Yeah.
There's the rope of a nunchuck with no actual nunchucks.
yeah, they broke
No
very
nun,
easily,
no chuck.
Yes.
A fellow checker, eh?
That's right. Yeah.
My earliest memories are extremely foggy. I remember being obsessed with them. I don't remember ever getting into them, but there was like 2 or 3 birthdays in a row where all I got was turtle stuff. It figures I got the vehicles and stuff as well. I had so many. I have a tub of just tons of toys. Like I would say over 50 toys usually somewhere in storage. But yeah, I have the entire original line. I doubt I had it when it came out.
Right.
But I know I was getting them in '89.
Yeah.
Because that's the earliest that I remember it, essentially. And I remember having this, the Turtle van. My favorite was always the Technodrome. That was, I thought, was so cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
Like, I would love to
was
find
awesome.
that.
There's a lot of accessories in the Technodrome.
And the one I absolutely hated was the blimp because it was a big balloon.
Yeah, and you
Hated
could do
that
anything with it. You said it just
Yeah.
hold it up and just
It's
make it look like
it
Did not fly.
No.
Oh, and another one I loved was when they finally put out like the big Krang body, where you can put Krang in the big body, which was like I would say like 12 inches, 16 inches,
11 inch.
11.
Yeah.
Well, of course, I was a lot smaller back then. It just seemed
huge.
larger than life.
I
But I thought that I got that for my birthday one year, and I just thought it was so cool. What's your earliest memories, Mike? 'Cause you're the youngest of the bunch here.
Kind of like you. Like it was just always there. Like from my earliest memories.
It's like it came from osmosis for like us.
Right.
We don't remember.
And I mean, I remember getting them for Christmas at certain times, but I don't remember like what would have been the first ones. We had pretty much the regular ones. We never had any like the cool like party versions or vacation versions or this weird clown Mikey that we're trying to hide because it's terrifying.
I honestly didn't get a lot of those.
Yeah, no, we never really had any of those. We
I
had
had some, but not really. 'Cause back then I thought those were kind of kiddie.
Right.
Yeah. They still are.
And also, my parents weren't going to buy me like all the Turtles figures on top of all the wrestling figures on top of all the Power Rangers.
See, I was only into Turtles and superheroes, so it was just those, and they always had crossover adventures in my little kid movies.
Oh, my Ninja Turtle figures were wrestlers as far as little kid me was concerned. They knew how to do suplexes and drop kicks and everything.
Jimmy, what's your earliest memories? You're the oldest of the bunch.
That's right. For me, Turtles was the last great action figure line of my childhood. The one I would hang those giant, Billy Pride members, those giant fold-out checklist posters on my wall and dream of having every one of them. The toy line I'd instantly look for when opening a Service merchandise catalog or a Sears wish list. I'm pretty sure Christmas '88 was the first major Turtle Christmas I had. I got pretty much the entire first wave. Here we have Raphael from that first wave. Now, this is not a re-release, so it's not exact. The Turtles, all the first-year Turtles had soft heads. If you look at my Leo here, he has a soft head. Eventually, they would all move to having the harder heads, which this Raphael probably also have. But the reason I want to look at Raphael here is to show you that what this line was originally supposed to be. Simple, charming, looks like the thing that you love from the comics and or the TV show.
Yeah, it's kind of it's really is a combination of the
Well, here we have the final Raphael from the original Playmates line, released in I think '96 or '97.
Oh, 96 was a dark year
this
for
is
Turtles.
Metal Mutant Raphael with Phoenix Spirit armor.
I don't even know how to explain this. Mike, explain this for our listeners at home. Holy shit, that's awful.
I'll give it a shot. It looks like someone dropped acid while listening to Rise of the Valkyrie and watching Ninja Turtles.
It's obviously pulling from what was popular when Turtles were not quite as popular at that time. As we go through, we will look at the commercial for that guy as well.
Oh, please.
I do want to point out that Playmates has done figures for pretty much every version of Turtles over the years. And while they've been eclipsed a bit as of late by other companies, NECA and Super 7, they are still making affordable versions of Turtles for kids of all ages. So to me, they are still the top dog. But today we're focusing on the '88 line, the line that started it all. A lot of good things came from those other cartoons, but we're sticking with the OG because it's where it still prints the money. The backstory of the Playmates toys is tied very closely, of course, to the '87 cartoon.
Yes.
We talked about that before and spoke about Mark Friedman of Surge Licensing, which at the time, Surge Licensing was just him.
Yeah, he was a one-man band because he worked for somebody else, like Hasbro or somebody before that, and just wanted to go on his own, and he bet on himself, and he came out big.
He courted Eastman and Laird and thought the Turtles brand could potentially sell like hotcakes, which led him to Playmates Toys. He had a giant plush turtle, looked almost mummified.
It's scary looking.
Made and sent directly to a friend of his at Playmates Toys, and they bought it, as Ferris Bueller would say. Well, they bought it, and Playmates gave the okay for the toy line and funded the first 5 episodes of the eventual cartoon. I do have a picture of Raphael here. He has a very Art Cloaky kind of style.
Oh, who brought it? I love that picture.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I do like that.
Yeah, they showed that on
Turtle Power.
Turtle Power and Toys That Made Us.
Yeah, Toys That Made Us.
It's Nightmare Fuel.
It looks like it's made out of Play-Doh.
The teeth.
And I thought
they're terrifying.
it was fun that was like Raphael, and it ended up, Raphael ended up being the turtle with the red bandana when they started color coordinating.
Yep.
Right.
The first wave launched in the spring of '88, just a few months after the 5 episodes premiere. We launched with all 4 Turtles: Bebop, Rocksteady, Splinter, April, Shredder, and Footsole. Just a few bits and bobs about the original wave. The Turtles themselves kind of have this, if you look at my original here, Turtles kind of have this like tippy toe kind of stance about them, making them very hard to pose as an adult, having them on a shelf, which definitely wasn't something Playmates was considering when they designed them.
Oh yeah, that is rough.
The designers wanted characters like Bebop and Rocksteady to be taller in scale, but Playmates was like, nope. So all the villains have sort of a hunch built into them. So like, if Bebop or Rocksteady stood up straight, they would be taller than the turtles. The worst is the foot soldier, who almost has like ape-like proportions. This isn't my quote, but I saw it in a video. But the Shredder figure kind of looks like he's trying to take while doing a magic trick.
I always thought it was weird that he was like shirtless.
Each figure, of course, we talked about it, came with a weapons rack, which is a tradition that continues with Mutant Mayhem. I like that they continue doing that.
Oh, they did that. That's awesome.
The turtles all have a different shade of green, which they keep going in all current lines. A lot of deluxe figures and vehicles came, Billy might remember this, came with a joke book.
Yes.
Which,
Ooh,
upon
really?
seeing them,
I don't remember that.
really takes me back. I have some
I need
joke
to hear some
books here,
jokes.
some prints. This is what it looked like. This would come with a lot of the more deluxe. This was Head Drop and Donatello. But they would come with a little joke book. And I have a little facsimile here of what the joke book would have looked like. We have the front here. Splinter's talking. He says, "These turtle jokes are the cheesiest." And he actually signed it. That's my favorite part of the joke books, that the figure up front talking signed the f***ing joke book.
He has
Signed off on it.
That's
Love
such a
it.
nice signature, too, for a rat.
I love the art. I'm
That
sure.
wasn't racist, I promise.
I'm sure some idiot has these tattooed on him. I'm kind of
I love
jealous.
all rats. I have a friend that's a rat.
I'm going to read some jokes.
Very cheesy, I'm sure.
Here we go. What covers the floor in the sewer besides slime?
What's that?
Reptile.
Ah! I kind of like that a little bit.
That's really good.
It's a thinker. It's a
That is
thinker.
a thinker. That's a good
Is
one.
it?
That is a good one.
Well, I had to think about it. Put it that way.
Even after you said it, it took me a second. I was like, reptile? I was like, oh, tile.
They put some work into that, didn't they?
They did.
Why didn't Leonardo take the foot soldier to the shoe store?
Oh, this is going to be a foot thing. Why is that?
He wanted to give him the boot. The boot. This is the best one.
I didn't like that one.
This one actually is another one that May put some work into. What do you call a lying turtle?
I don't know.
I'm bunched.
An amphibian. Thank you. I'll be here all night.
I won't.
Come on. I thought that was a pretty good one.
Oh, amphibian.
Amphibian.
Yeah, it took me a second too.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh, I've just got it.
yeah.
Because he's amphibian.
Yeah.
Fibbing.
Yeah.
Fibbing to lie,
Fibbing.
people. Yeah.
1989 brought additional waves of figures, including some of my personal favorites, Ace Duck.
Everybody had that.
Everyone had
Yeah.
Ace Duck. Baxter Stockman, Casey Jones, Krang and his Bubble Walker, which is here
That's
somewhere.
one of my favorites.
Yeah, the Bubble
right
Walker is
there.
awesome.
Yeah.
Leatherhead Rat King with a dead cat belt.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I don't think I ever had Rat King.
Yeah.
And Usagi Yojimbo.
Yeah.
This was the first year to add additional versions of the Turtles with wacky actions. A Mikey that swings his nunchucks around, a Donatello that swims. There's actually made another Donatello that swims later in the line, and a wind-up Mouser with damage stickers. I love
fun.
stickers.
Yeah, the stickers were
It's
awesome.
fun.
Yeah, the stickers are great.
Super 7 has since released an Ace Duck with an alternate head that has a cigar in his mouth, and it's literally the tits. Let me show you all a picture of this Ace Duck with a cigar in his
Oh
mouth.
my!
That's awesome.
And he actually has goggles that is not on
I like the
picture.
teeth.
Yeah.
I like the teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of really want him.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
and he has another head, too, which looks just like the
that
figure.
looks
Does
great.
anybody know the story behind H Duck? Because I've never seen H Duck in anything.
Don't know the full story behind it.
I just know that
I'd like
figure
to.
used to be everywhere.
We might eventually touch on some of that as we
Okay.
go through it. He's in one. He's not even a scene in the cartoon. He's on TV.
I thought he might be on cartoon or something
And
like
then
that.
they put him in the Archie comics somewhere.
Yeah,
he was
I think
in those.
it's Archie comic because a lot of the figures that came out on there were from like Archie comics.
Yeah, or eventually would be because
Right.
they were a figure.
Did they put out a figure of Hitler?
No, they did not.
Justice Brain.
We're teaching.
No.
Teaching episode 6 here.
No.
A big part of the promotional blitz for the figures came in the form of a virtual onslaught of Playmates commercials, a lot of them airing during afternoon television and Saturday mornings. Bill, I know you remember all the Playmates commercials.
Oh yeah, they were fun.
The kooky voiceovers, the ironic, sometimes meta sensibilities, the dad puns, and weird live-action elements made them an ideal way to sell the figures.
And they were usually voices that weren't the voices,
They were,
right?
sometimes,
Yeah,
as they went
sometimes.
along, we had Rob Paulson and
Right.
everyone in
Okay.
it. It was never James Avery. It was always a guy doing a
I'd
mean
say-
Shredder
yeah.
voice.
Yeah, Shredder's voice was always
Yeah.
trash in those.
Yeah.
'Cause I remember we watched some of those before we recorded the first podcast.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is
Yeah.
It's
rough,
like this
man.
is not who it is. Yeah.
It was a perfect meld of brand synergy, and it really made a mark on the commercial landscape. Pretty soon, commercials for weird anomalies like Barnyard Commandos, Toxic Crusaders, Food Fighters, and every form of weird mashup was hot again during a time when that kind of thing was kind of dying out, and Turtles kind of brought it back. And commercials were really fun during the late 80s, early 90s. 1990 brought more variants, some of them pretty cool, such as the Storage Shell Turtles. I've got one of those here. I got Mikey
Is that
here.
where they put everything in the shell?
Yeah, I remember.
I had some of those.
Those are now being re-released. Walmart has those. Dawn was released the first year, and they released the other 3 Turtles in 91. I guess they tried out Donatello with that feature, and it sold, so they did that.
They probably just dipping their feet in the water.
Sometimes they did that. But some strange figure selections that year, too, including Fugitoid, who never appeared in the 88 series, and a Triceraton, who appeared maybe once.
Professor Honeycutt.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of the characters who would later go on to appear in Mutant Mayhem came out this year, including Scumbug, Wingnut, and Mondo Gecko, who came with decals to put on a skateboard. Again, I love when a figure comes with decals.
Decals were awesome part of it.
If I remember correctly, don't a lot of the vehicles come with decals? Like all the stickers here, I think you put those on, didn't you?
We'll talk about my favorite one that has decals later.
All right.
Also, the Giant Turtles came out that year, which have just been re-released.
I had the Raphael one.
I had the Raphael. Never had these as a kid, so
I never had
it's
them.
a treat
That's a re-release
to have them now. Even though this is smaller in scale, they were bigger.
But still, they were bigger.
This is a much more basic sculpt than they would have been at that time.
I never had them as a kid either. I think they didn't get released till after.
Well, I think that was for my age.
It was year 2.
Really.
Yep.
91 is where things started to get out of control. There were new characters introduced, but they took an absolute backseat to Turtle variants. Yes, we got Dirtbag, we got Ground Chuck, we got Chrome Dome, we got Anthrax, but the focus really shifted at that point. So, we're going to play a game.
Okay.
A lot of bad Turtle figures came out over the run of the series. I want you to guess the real figure. We're starting with Billy.
All right, this is fun.
Okay.
Billy, I'll put in some music here. Some
Yeah, right here.
Billy, guess the real figure. Make My Day Leo. Oh, Shiver Me Timbers Raph. Stop, Drop, and Roll Donatello.
Stop, Drop, and Roll Donatello. Darn.
Make My Day Leo.
That's the one I was hoping it would be. That's fantastic.
Brandon.
I remember that design. I didn't know there was a name.
Brandon.
Yes.
Anchors Away Mikey. Yankee Doodle Raph. Color Changing Sewer Dude Leo.
Yankee Doodle Raph.
Ding, 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 ding,
I
ding.
remember
Yankee
that.
Doodle
I remember that figure actually.
Raph. Mike. Bandito Bashing Mikey. Demolition Specialist Dawn.
These are good ones.
Reporting for Duty Raph.
We're gonna go Demolition Specialist on.
All right, this was a trick question. The real produced figure was Bandito Bashing Mike.
Oh, that looks racist.
my God.
That is racist.
But Demolition Specialist Dawn was made but never produced.
Oh, wow.
So yes, trick question. Last question goes for the entire table.
That name's racist. We're talking about Bandito.
It was a different time.
It was a different time. A lot of them are real sketchy. So, Dwarf Donatello. Private.
Which?
I kind of branched out with this one. Private Porknose Bebop. Dimwit Doughboy Rocksteady. What are your votes?
I'm going Dwarf Donatello.
I'm going Dimbot or Dimwitted Bebop or whatever.
I'll go with the Rocksteady one.
Another trick question. These are all real figures. And here we have
wow.
Dwarf Donatello.
Oh, that looks bad.
It was some kind of like role-playing thing they were doing, obviously.
Wow.
Okay.
That's our game.
Wow.
You don't win anything.
Sounds like everyone won back in 1992.
I don't want to win anything after that game.
So obviously, got really I got a hand with these turtles, obviously.
But they made so much money.
At the time.
They made $1.1 billion in just those 4 years. It's the third highest action figure amount that any franchise has had. I think the only two above it is like G.I. Joe and Star Wars.
Yeah.
But we had some really big turtle variants in 91. The talking turtle, which came with those little strips. You put a little strip in the turtle and you pull it out and he says, Cowabunga, or turtle power. You have to listen real carefully to know that's what he said, but that's what he said.
Talking turtles, yeah.
These strips were sold separately, so they were an add-on. They loved doing add-ons. Probably for me, the best line was the Movie Star Turtle line. I have some of those here.
There's a few over here.
Yes, those are reprints.
Is that the movie?
Yes, from Secretly Used. They did all 4 turtles.
Did they not do action figures for the first movie?
No, they did not.
I remember having pretty much all of the Secret of the Used line, but not.
But those have pictures from both movies, but those came out after Turtles too.
Well, I mean, this one I'm looking at is Super Shredder, so that's definitely going to be
that one
I had.
Now today you can get a Judith Hogue figure, but not then.
Yes.
Right.
And I know there was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle 3 figure line too.
Mm-hmm.
Get like 3
So I had that
different
Shaolin
Judith
monk
Hogue
look.
figures. At this point.
We will look at one figure from that line later, a little more in depth. But they had more of a rubbery feel, and they had spots all over them.
Sorry, we're looking at the picture of Splinter from the movie.
Okay, do we just want to talk about this now?
Let's do it now.
Groundhog. Oh, the chipmunk looking one. Yeah.
Okay, give me a second. Give me a second.
Oh God, it's really bad.
I'm sorry to ruin your flow there, Jimmy, but like,
Give me that.
Good God.
No, I have them. Let me find it.
What are these eyes?
This bullshit. Look at this.
He did Kevin Clash so wrong.
Okay, so let me say this. So when this figure came out in '91, it didn't look like this. It looked like the best Splinter figure they've ever made.
Okay,
that's really good.
It's flocked like Panther.
Yeah.
I don't think I had that one.
Exactly like what you want it to look like from the movie. Yeah. But when they did this release, Playmates cheaped out, and they brought brought the cartoon version out, and they colored it and just put this kind of color on the kimono. So I hate this, but I'm glad I have it.
I love the eyes. The eyes are the worst part.
My heart is literally hurting.
I mean, this is basically what the Splinter figure looked like from '88.
The hands and feet. I get that they would be flesh toned.
I didn't see the hands and feet.
They're far too flesh toned, and like the leg hair just stops like leg warmers.
They look like a really bad Splinter costume for Halloween.
Let me see the eye. Let me see the eye.
Oh my God.
Okay, it don't look like an eye here, but on the back here, look at this thing.
Yeah, it's a
picture on the back of the figure.
The picture on the back of the card.
That's no favor.
I can hear him saying, like it's that.
Yeah.
Okay, Rockstar Turtles. They also did Rockstar Turtles. I think I have rapping. Oh, here he is. I have rapping Michelangelo.
Are they based on anybody in particular? Like that Flavor Flav with the big
I think that's kind of what that's going for.
Yeah, it's definitely got to at least be
and
at least with the clock.
Feels like a good time to segue into vehicles, because as much of a cluster as figures were, these vehicles, man, you couldn't comprehend. You couldn't comprehend some of these vehicles, some of these choices. Nothing as crazy as, say, Donatello's Carnival Car or Leo's Jolly Turtle Tugboat. Oh, wait, those are real things. I'm sorry, I misread that. Also add to that the Toilet Taxi, Shredder-mobile, the Bubble Bomber. It's a bomber jet that shoots bubbles.
Oh, that's diabolical.
And, of course, the ones everyone remembers because they were the best, the Party Wagon, the Cheapskate, the Pizza Thrower, which they always reference and bring back in every other version of the Turtles line. The Technodrome, which had a special pipe feature which connected it to the sewer playset. That's really smart thinking, Playmates.
Such a cool
The sewer playset was awesome in its own.
What was the foot knucklehead?
The knucklehead is like a spider that comes down and grabs your figures.
Yeah.
It came
that
out
was like one of the original releases. I'm like, I don't know what that is.
It was sort of the answer to the Cheapskate.
It was a Foot Clan.
Yeah, it was a Foot Clan thing.
Because it had the foot on it and all that.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And my favorite was the Turtle Blimp. I just think it's the best vehicle.
Like the blimp?
Yes, because presentation. I'm a presentation guy. You walk in a room, I just think it's beautiful.
But
beautiful.
But
it drops bombs. It inflates.
But
this is just a rolling toy.
That balloon has a shelf life though. Because
no, it doesn't. They go forever. I'd still have it if I wasn't a stupid teenager that thought my things weren't cool anymore. I'd still have the Turtle Blimp.
You sold your stuff when you're teenager?
Of course, I gave everything away because I thought it was too cool. Of course, yeah. I'm surprised I have these because these were up in the attic. These survived my years of like. I like Nirvana. So my mom found these. My mom got up in the attic when the parents got divorced and found these, and I was like, thank God, because they would have been gone too in yard sales.
I wish they would have done a Nirvana line of turtles.
Yeah, but majority of all mine went to yard sales as well.
I always wanted the mutant module. It came out a little late in the line for me.
I had that. I think I had that.
Because they used it so much in the cartoon that it just felt like a staple.
Yep.
The good thing about Turtles is that a lot of the vehicles and add-ons were pretty inexpensive, so it was easy to add shit on when you're shopping with your parents. I mean, canister of ooze were like $2 or $3. And just letting you know, letting my parents know that sealed canisters are going now for at least $400 on eBay.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes adding things on pays off, Mom and Dad. It's been said that Eastman and Laird said to the folks designing these toys, which this might be where A-Stuck came from, if we use your design, however weird it is, you can keep the profits. Which led to such memorable mutants as Monty, these are all real, Monty Moose, Hot Spot the Dalmatian,
Whoa.
Half-Court Giraffe, Walkabout the Kangaroo, and Sergeant Bananas. These sound like Sweet Pickles books to me, but they're totally real.
Sergeant Bananas.
I don't remember any of those.
I kind of remember the Dalmatian and the first one. I don't remember any of the others.
I don't remember it. The first name you said sounds familiar, but outside of that,
Monty Moose.
Yeah,
Moose.
He was a Canadian.
Mountie.
Yeah.
Wasn't he a Mountie?
Yeah.
I remember him.
Because of course he was.
it's like a play on Marty Moose almost.
Yep. I haven't talked much about what these things are worth, but Billy, this is Scratch the Cat. Tell me how much Scratch the Cat goes for.
$6,374.96.
This is one of the few figures from late in the line, because no one was buying them at that point. They were buying turtle variants. They weren't buying some weird thing that some guy came up with.
That's one thing that going back to the comics for a minute. I've been trying to buy some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Adventures books, which for the longest time you could only find in like quarter bins.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're worth like hundreds because they no one bought them at that point. Because at that point no one really cared about turtles anymore.
A lot of the final Return of the Jedi line are worth some because no one bought them, just sat around. Here we have a loose Scratch the Cat for $2,400 that's been good. Some of them have been graded.
Wow.
This is a graded one for $10,000. So yeah, Scratch the Cat. It's just a cat in a jailbird outfit.
Yeah, I don't even remember.
Isn't that an NC-17 movie?
Could be Scratch the Cat.
Yeah.
No, that was Fritz the Cat.
Yeah,
Fritz. That was Fritz.
Just to bring it back, he fucked Hitler in that movie. Hitler had one ball. So there we
It's all connected.
We're good.
But he's in every episode of our podcast, guys.
And he can be featured in episode 6.
That was
I'm a white dude with a shaved head. This is not a good look for me.
That was like late 70s, wasn't it? Fritz the Cat?
Yes, it was.
But we have Rat Fritz.
Other figures continued to make an impression in '92. We finally got Krang in his android body, which was a giant oversized figure in a box. We got the whole line from Turtles 3. April got a few variants, including the Ravishing Reporter with rooted hair. I think she's there somewhere.
She looks like a little Barbie doll thing.
Yeah, they did that with a couple
I
different
don't like it.
No.
I love
really
it.
got to see her.
I love rooted hair. Other memorable turtle variants continued with birthday turtles, head-dropping turtles, cowboy turtles, Indian turtles, caveman turtles,
Native American
Star Trek turtles, treasure troll turtles. They did treasure troll turtles.
I
with hair.
remember those. They were awful.
Yeah, I remember
Farmer
seeing those.
turtles, mutating turtles, which are now in re-release again. The turtles could mutate into their baby selves and later into vehicles. Soon, April, Shredder, Splinter, Toka, Razor, and a host of other characters had mutating variants. There's a line from one of the commercials where a kid says out loud without any irony, "Look, Leo is mutating into a fire engine." Meanwhile, Eastman and Laird are somewhere banging their heads against a wall.
Glad you finished that statement.
So I'm going to show you all a picture. This is another problematic thing. He's white.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the tail.
So that's weird. They left the tail there.
The tail makes it look like he has a penis
Yes,
coming out.
Bebop is an African American character,
Or
but
he's, like,
he
taking
is
a
a
shit.
white figure.
Oh,
So that's pretty
rough.
sus.
That's rough.
Yeah.
What did they do to my boy? They even had a mutating vehicle. Okay, this is very exciting. I love this so much. Get a load of this. I mentioned earlier that there was Rock and Roll Turtles. I have Rap and Michelangelo there. There was a school bus. Let me find it. Let me find the picture. I'm an old grandpa. There was a school bus that mutated from a regular school bus. This was the Mutabus.
Ew,
Mutated
okay.
from a regular school bus for the Turtles and their friends into a tour bus for these Rock and Roll Turtles. One of the few times they actually built a vehicle
That's really cool.
for the
That is
variants.
actually.
Check this out. Look at the stickers. Look at the stickers you can
Oh,
put.
that's amazing.
On the
like-
stickers, they have Raphael, they have Casey Jones, they have Mondo Gecko. That's really cool.
Usagi's in there.
That's Usagi.
That's Usagi.
Yes,
That's
Usagi.
Look how
Yeah.
mad Splinter is he has to drive.
Like shorts.
Look at his legs.
That's the creepy crawling Splinter variant. Isn't it weird they use that?
It's the variants of the characters. in
Yeah,
there,
it's
too.
really strange. It's very strange. And as you can, there's different stickers. So there's Fugitoids in there, it looks like.
You need this, Jimmy.
Mondo Gecko, Bebop.
How is Fugitoid never in
Is that
the
just a
cartoon?
piece of pizza?
That is
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just a pizza and an airplane.
paper airplane.
But of course, it mutates into a tour bus, or it folds out and they can like
Perform.
a stage.
They can
They
perform.
can perform.
Neat as shit.
Is this before or after coming out of the shells?
After.
That's probably what this is kind of going.
I think
I feel like
after.
that's
Yeah.
foreshadowing
Yeah,
or something.
but I think that's really cool. I don't
That
know
is
why.
really
I
cool.
just think it's really
The
cool
bus.
they made
The
that.
bus almost looks like one. Remember the carrying case with like the
Sweet Pickles.
Yes.
Yes, it kind of. That's why. That's
Yes.
probably why I
Yeah,
just said Sweet Pickles earlier. So I
it
referenced
looks
twice.
just like Sweet Pickles.
Yeah.
You need it for the decals alone.
This is where things get sad.
Oh.
We're about to wrap up there. 1994 really spelled the point of no return for the Ninja Turtles line, at least the 88 line, as Turtles began to chase whatever new things the kids were into. We got things like Cyber Samurai Turtles, Turtles that explode out of eggs, Kung Fu Turtles, the Pizza Tossin' variants. Those are re-released now, but they just look fugly to me. I can't get into them. Mm-hmm. The figures became much more, I use the word boyetic. It really began to embrace the extreme tendencies of 90s pop culture and began to steal gimmicks from other lines like Micro Machines. They even did Stretch Armstrong. There's a Stretch Armstrong Turtles in 96. In 97, the year I graduated high school, the line was primarily dinosaur themed, with figures like Stego Ralph. I was nervous because I don't want to fuck up the next one. Stego Raph and Pteranodon.
I got depressing in here.
And the Playmates commercials at this point are almost unrecognizable. Let me play you guys some of these. Honestly, they're borderline experimental, like an Adult Swim commercial. Let's watch these.
Oh no, it's Cyber Samurai Shredder and Cyber Samurai Bebop. What we need now are Cyber Samurai Turtles. Look out, fists are flying. Oh no, it's Cyber Samurai Rap. It's our turn through a few punches. They're ready to what an awesome breakthrough.
Eventually, Playmates would do figures for the live-action, the ill-fated live-action 90s show, but that was essentially the end of this phase of the Playmates figure line, a line that still continues to this day with Mutant Mayhem, as new waves of that were just announced with Scumbug, Mondo Gecko, and Wingnut. It's truly a never-ending cycle, and I'm thankful for that as an action figure guy.
The latest video game Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles looks like on Nintendo. Mondo to the max. Cowabunga. Tubular. Radical. And here's what it looks like on Sega. So if you want to catch the awesome Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in action, you'd better buy Nintendo, because the only turtles you'll get on Sega are these. Nintendo, the entertainment system with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
No, man.
So that was my look at some of the turtle toys over the years. Why don't we look at some of because they go hand in hand. Let's look at some turtle games over the years. Mike, I think you have some information on that.
I do. I have a few hot, fresh science facts for the Ninja Turtle video game, starting from 89 to about 93. That's about the basic chunk of all the Ninja Turtle games that anybody listening would know. And we'll just go through some basic facts. Billy, feel free to jump in with anything, as you would be the other one with expertise on this. Starting off 1989 on the NES with a single-player title, costing you about $55 at retail. The very first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle video game. The story is pretty basic. It's Ninja Turtles, so we start off, April gets kidnapped, you go save April. While you're saving April, somebody went and kidnapped Splinter. So,
awesome cutscenes, may I add.
For the NES, it was definitely ahead of its time. There wasn't a lot of NES games that had cutscenes, but that was
Ninja Gaiden and stuff like that did.
Well, that's the king of those NES cutscenes, definitely. One of the interesting things about the game is when you do beat it, for some reason, literally, I'll read the dialogue here in a second, but for some reason when you win, Splinter turns back into Hamato Yoshi. Mm-hmm.
Why?
There's no mutagen involved when you beat Shredder. It's just you beat him.
Yeah.
And then as it happens,
like
Splinter is saying, "You defeated Shredder and saved the world. Now I can turn back into my human form. Thanks. You guys have excelled my skills." Wow.
Yeah.
God, NES Game Over scenes just always had the best dialogue.
They did.
It was one of those games I would rent all the time and never get any further. All the time. Like me and Pinley would rent it all the time.
What was it, the original NES one?
Yeah, the original
NES one. Did y'all get stuck in the water looking for the
oh my God!
The bombs?
Can we talk about that?
Talk about the water
for a second?
And just the bombs, yeah.
Not only is that just one of the most frustrating levels in video game history.
I keep seeing memes about it.
Can we talk about how it makes... Now, I get that I'm asking for far too much logic on a video game based on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Why is it... Billy, do you remember the first part of the game? You're running around in the sewers?
Yeah.
Do you remember what happens when you fall into the water?
Yeah, you like splash and shit.
Yeah, and you die.
And you die, yeah.
Yeah. And then the very next level is literally you completely submerged underwater.
Yes.
And getting electrocuted while completely submerged underwater, and it does not kill you.
They don't kill you. Well, eventually,
Right, but it's not like instant death like it is in the level before, and that's just always frustrated the living shit out of me.
Yeah.
So I had to bring that up.
I like when you walk off the thing and it goes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you just cut to the next.
Yeah.
Cut to the next level. Always like that.
And that jump. Remember the fucking jump?
Oh, the one that you could just walk across?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can just walk across.
You can walk across it.
If you're a video game nerd, of course.
Everyone loses their mind the moment they figure that out.
Yeah.
I died that many. Son of a.
I died so many fucking times. It was goddamn ridiculous.
Right. That and the amount of times in the game where like they'll put a pizza in a spot and you absolutely cannot
You
get
can't get to it.
just to be
There's
a dick.
no fucking way.
Oh,
Yeah.
fucking Konami. Which, by the way, is the developer for the majority of these games.
Yes.
That we'll be talking about. So, Brandon, any memories based on the game?
I don't think I've ever played that one.
Oh, it was.
We'll have to
no,
do
I-
that one day
so
so you
do
can
you-
tear out what's left of your hair.
When it comes to the old ones, I was only really familiar with the arcade game and Turtles in Time.
All right. Well, the arcade game released the exact same year in 1989. It was actually the first multiplayer Ninja Turtles game, which is one of the things that was missing from the original one was, being able to play as the Ninja Turtles with your friends or your brother or whoever it was you were playing games with. I never understood why that did, because multiplayer games already existed. Nothing else. We already had Double Dragon at this point.
Yep. We had X-Men at that point, didn't we?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we don't need to talk about those X-Men games. They were not.
Oh, the Sega ones were horrible.
I'm talking about the arcade one.
Well, that's
okay.
different. Yeah, no, the arcade game's
With
fantastic.
Dazzler for some reason.
Yeah.
Why Dazzler? Okay.
Yeah, the arcade games were.
So, and we're gonna have to jump around a little bit with continuity's sake because of weird things like the arcade game came out in 1989, shortly after the NES game.
Yeah.
And then the port of the arcade game for the NES is considered the second
Yes.
of the NES. It's officially titled Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game. But in Japan, because the first one was not called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in Japan, the first one was actually called The Legend of Extreme Ninja Turtles.
Oh.
Story is roughly the same as all Turtle games. There's almost no point to get into it unless it's different, but this time they've kidnapped both Splinter and April
Oh man,
at
double
the
whammy.
same time. So, fight through several levels, same boss battles. Almost all of these games will have Rocksteady, Bebop, Krang, Shredder, and Baxter Stockman. Occasionally you get a few other characters thrown in there, like this also had Granitor and General Trag on it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
General Trag.
General
yeah.
Trag.
Um,
this one.
I think
but
they showed
this
up in
is-
the IDW series. Actually, come to think of it.
Nice.
Is this the game where you knock his helmet off?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. This is the original arcade game, the
Okay.
very first one. So I know we've all got all kinds of memories tied to this game. If nothing else, I mean, we could go walk out into Jimmy's living room real quick and play real quick and make some memories.
He has an arcade version of that and Turtles in Time.
And if we don't know how to play it, I brought the instruction manual from the original.
There you go.
NES.
He does
there's a
have
jump
that.
button and an attack button. That's all you need. That's the joystick.
I always like looking at the artwork in those. Though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Billy brought you brought one
Yeah.
earlier, and I looked at the artwork in there. It's really cool.
It's a beautiful simplicity, those beat 'em ups. I remember when this game came out, this was a huge thing, and I made my parents drive around to Toys R Us's and try and find it. Like, it was huge. I wanted that game so badly.
Did they have
I
one
still
at
love
like
it.
Champs back in the day?
Yeah, and I always think of
Yeah,
that.
that's
I'm
where
like,
where I played it.
I think Chuck E. Cheese actually
Chuck E.
was
Cheese
where I
probably
played
did,
the arcade game a lot.
Just say no. Just
Oh
say no.
wow!
yeah,
Just
yeah.
say no
Just say no.
arcade. Is it like 3rd Street? Like it's
Yeah.
South Louisville, right?
Yeah.
I never went to that one.
It's actually really close to where I went to high school.
It was
I went to DeSales, so it's like
Yep.
like 5 minutes
Right around
away
the
from
corner.
there.
Right around the corner. Yeah.
But playing it in the arcade it's way different than playing the NES one. The NES one, the graphics was a massive downgrade.
Yeah.
First, the very first stage arcade with the fire and all that.
Oh, it's super memorable.
Yeah, it looks so great.
All right, so moving on with it. So next we actually have the first entry in the Game Boy games, which Jimmy, I believe, said earlier he actually had this game growing up.
Totally did. I probably got it for Easter or something like that.
All the Foot Clan.
Indeed. Not a whole lot of story because it was a Game Boy game and it was
Very linear.
1990, so it's pretty early on in the Game Boy life. So
Mike showed us some of that on his PS4 earlier.
it is about as basic of gameplay as it gets. You walk from left to right. You hit things that come after you. You don't even really have any platforms.
I think
to
that's
jump
why
over.
I've never got into the Game Boy. A lot of them were kind of simplistic like that.
Yeah.
Well, it was a lot like
Which is
the,
charming now, but back then, as a kid, I thought
it was a lot like the electronic game handhelds.
Oh yeah, that's looking
Oh,
up
yeah,
some of the
yeah.
stuff. There's a lot of electronic handhelds for Ninja Turtles. I'm sure there was probably a Tiger Electronic one,
and
which barely passes as a video game.
Like that, like now they like to count there's a bunch of iOS Turtle games.
Oh yeah, there's a whole lot.
I feel like that's kind of
mobile,
today's version of that.
That's fair. Moving on, this is the only game that isn't just general home consoles that I wanted to talk about because I didn't know anything about it, and I thought that it'd be kind of interesting. So it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Manhattan Missions.
Yep.
Came out in 1991 for MS-DOS.
Yep.
It was multiplayer. You could either do single or two-player. I couldn't find any original price points for this game when it came out, but I did find what they go for on eBay if you manage to have you a copy to sell nowadays.
How much they go for?
And so recently, it's anywhere between $250 to $310.
Yeah.
And for an MS-DOS game,
Yeah.
that's pretty ridiculous.
I hear it's not good.
I do remember this cover. I've seen this cover.
Yeah, and the
cover was they showed that in comic book ads a lot.
Well, and that would make sense because it actually leans a lot more towards the Mirage iterations of them. I mean, it has the separate colors and whatnot. But as far as
one of the only games that actually went off the Mirage.
Yeah. I mean, there's little pieces of it in that original 1989 one. Like,
I said the 89 cover is
cover is absolutely
from I think issue 4.
Yeah, they still have the red masks on the box art and everything,
but not the game itself.
Right.
Yeah, Turtles Time was like, I mean, Super NES. It was one of the first games that actually fully showed what that bit could do.
Oh yeah,
you had all the villains.
And it looks like the arcade.
It does.
There's no downgrade in those graphics.
No, there's not. And it even has the thing where you can flip the foot soldier at your screen. It looks like
fling them at the screen.
It's like a 3D image
such a
coming
trip.
at you almost.
It was such a trip.
It really was. Such
depending on the level, it could either be the foot soldier face first into the screen or ass first into the screen.
Yeah, and the first time you fight Shredder in the Technodrome, where you could flip them into the screen.
Right.
It actually shows the screen like breaking a little bit because that's how you beat the stage.
That's how you beat Shredder.
That's the only way to beat Shredder.
Yeah.
You're not like fighting him like in an arcade style type thing where you're going like side screen. You're actually having to flip foot soldiers in your own face.
Right.
Just to damage him enough to be able to advance.
Right.
Well, actually, it's advanced, but in that
that's the point of the story. Yeah. That's where he sends you back in time.
You go back in time. So
right.
You're not really advancing per se.
Right, and then at that point, I mean, we have like the Stone Age you have to fight through, which is where we see Slash.
Yep.
And they have, I'm not sure what time period the train was supposed to be because the level design doesn't really lend itself to anything other than, hey, we're on a train.
1800s maybe?
There we go. Sure, that sounds good to me.
We have foot soldiers on horseback in that one?
Yeah, they do ride up.
That's right. That's great.
Yeah. I would say 1800s because it has like a cowboy-esque.
There we go.
Yeah, that's what they're going
and that's
for.
the Leatherhead
Yeah.
level. That's where he shows up.
Like they really got creative for that game.
They did.
And
right, and then the pirate ship was that was always my favorite of like the ones that are supposed to be back in time.
And then you even go like all the way into far future.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
far future.
It's far future. Oh, I didn't look up what years that. I wonder if it's like
they're probably like 2000,
right, 2020 or something like that.
I wonder if it was 2099.
If they went to 2020, they would just show up.
That would be funny considering
Because around that time, a lot of comics had 2099 comics.
Yeah, like Ultimate
Marvel,
Spider-Man,
X-Men. Yeah,
that was
Miguel
right
O'Hara.
around the same time period of when
Fair point.
Yeah.
The 2020 would just be them having to stay home and wear masks when they go out.
Well, it's like
That'd be so boring.
Teenage Mundane Ninja Turtle. So there was also, as we mentioned, there's a Super Nintendo port of the game that came out in '92. There was also in 2009 a remaster titled Turtles in Time Reshelled. Didn't get the best reception.
People didn't love that one. Why was that?
I personally think it was just because they did a little more than people really wanted. I mean, original Turtles in Time is kind of like Billy was saying. It's kind of the benchmark for Ninja Turtle games. Yeah. Even all the way up until even all the way up until 2009. So when it didn't play the same, the Turtles didn't. They didn't make the game look prettier. They made it look like a different game, and it felt like a bad version of the game made today.
And they took things out of it too from the original Turtles in Time.
Right. I think if nothing else, they took the Super Nintendo levels out, and it was just the arcade levels at that point.
Which upset a lot of people.
Right. Which why would you do that? It's a home console release. Keep the home console release levels in there.
Exactly. Yes.
But bringing it back to the Game Boy at this point, with the second iteration of that, it's the same thing as the first one, just with prettier graphics. I don't have a lot of facts to throw at this one if anybody has anything to throw in.
What's it called? Is that Back from the Sewers?
That is Back from the Sewers.
Back from the Sewers.
I had it, but I don't have anything to add. It's just another.
The rest of it, I don't really have much to add.
Right. It's the only real positive thing you could say in it is it has a slight graphical upgrade from the first one, and the designs do look a little bit more like the cartoon versions of the Turtles, which is a nice change of pace, seeing as especially most of the audience that was going to be buying that game were the people watching that cartoon.
Right.
That's true.
Well, they wouldn't be buying the game, but they would be playing it.
Playing the game, right.
Yeah.
I hate being
our parents would be.
I hate being an adult thinking in terms like that, correcting myself.
Yeah,
I wish my parents still bought me video games.
I'm honestly surprised we even sold well at all because that's around time of like Game Gear and whatnot.
Yeah.
And showing like actual
I did have Game Gear.
Right.
color graphics on a handheld.
Yeah.
I did have Game Gear.
Game Gear's big though. You could beat a man to death with one of
You
those.
could. Those things are heavy.
You could probably do it with the Game Boy too if you really wanted to. Let's be fair.
Well, the battery pack for the Game Gear alone, it was like carrying around a charger, or not a charger, but a AC adapter for the NES.
Right. Yeah, it was. And moving on to, as previously mentioned before, the Manhattan Project, which would be number 3 on NES, which came out in '92. This one, the story is a little interesting. Only starts off with them on vacation in Key West.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And like the opening cutscene was like them on lawn chairs on the beach with sunglasses on and whatnot. Until yet again, April O'Neil's reporting gets interrupted by Shredder, in which case he lets everyone know he has turned the borough of Manhattan into a floating island.
Yep.
I hate when that happens.
Right, all the time.
Yeah.
Goddamn, Avengers couldn't do anything about it
They
either.
could not.
And then, as always, Turtles give chase. We have to thwart Shredder at the end. That is not easy to say.
Together, like Thwart Shredder.
And then at the same time, in the same year, we had Hyperstone Heist coming out.
Sega Genesis.
For Sega Genesis.
Yeah, I played that one. I don't remember much about it, but I did play that one.
Clearly, it was you can't even call it heavily inspired. It's Turtles in Time for Sega Genesis. This is what Konami did whenever they would make games, like just to keep it cartoon related. Animaniacs. They have a game on Super Nintendo. They have a game on Sega Genesis. They could have released the same game on both systems, but instead they made 2 completely different games, which is what they did with Ninja Turtles. It's even what they did with Castlevania, because you had Super Castlevania 4 on Super NES, then you had stuff like Bloodlines on Sega Genesis. 2 completely different games.
Mortal Kombat did the same thing.
Beavis and Butthead games completely different.
And Ren
and Stimpy.
Ren and Stimpy. I had that
way up there.
Ren and Stimpy one made me so mad. And then to round out the Game Boy games in 1993, we have Part 3, Radical Rescue. This one a lot different from the other ones. This one's actually worth mentioning.
That was the one that you showed earlier, right?
It's a lot more.
That looked way better.
Yes, it's a lot more of like a real action adventure game. Online they tried to compare it to Metroidvania games. I don't know if I'd go that far with it.
I wouldn't go that far.
But it's more than just you walking from left to right and beating up Foot Clan members. The story actually is almost, I think Brandon referred to it earlier as like a kid-friendly Last Ronin, because Mikey hasn't lost everybody to death, but they've all been kidnapped, and the game starts off with you as Mikey going to rescue the rest of the Turtles, and then eventually rescue April and Splinter. All right, and moving on next will be the anomaly of all of this, Tournament Fighters. So there's a version for Super Nintendo, there's a version for Sega Genesis, and then the year after those 2 drop, the NES version of the game comes out. The only thing I can chalk that up to is that just fighting games were extremely popular at the time. So why not try to get one on NES for the people who haven't been able to upgrade yet, I guess was their thought process.
But Street Fighter was like...
it was the king at that point.
Yeah, it was the king for everybody.
And you can see that in the Super Nintendo version of Tournament Fighters, because it is damn near a reskin of Street Fighter without any of the charm. But the interesting thing about Tournament Fighters, so it has a different story for each system.
I think that's so cool. Like, it's a different story whether if you get it on Genesis or NES. It kind of like makes you want to buy each version.
Right. And so like the story in the NES version is that the Turtles are fighting it out amongst themselves to figure out who would be the most fit to fight Shredder. I don't know why they're not just going to bum rush the dude, but we have to shoehorn stories for video games to make sense sometimes. And then after you get done fighting your Turtle Brothers, you move on to fight Casey Jones, and I believe Dragon Warrior is actually who it is.
Yeah, I think so.
And then you fight Shredder, and that's the end of that. And then for Sega Genesis, the story was actually you were fighting alien clones in Dimension X.
Naturally, yeah.
Right, after, I don't know, Krang was the one who interrupted the airwaves this time and started talking to the
Well, at
turtles.
least they changed it up a little bit.
Right?
Yeah.
But there are also clones in the game of Ray Fillet, Casey Jones, April O'Neil, and this character Sisyphus that they created just for that game. For that version of the game, too, is my understanding. And then the Super Nintendo story was a lot more basic. It was basically there was a tournament was being put together, and the turtles found out that Shredder had entered himself in the tournament. So, as always, to stop Shredder, the turtles enter the tournament so that they can thwart him. Seems a little rude on the turtles' part, and this like he's not even trying to take over the world.
Yeah, he's just kind of doing his own thing.
Yeah, right? He's just trying to go win a tournament, maybe do some karate on the weekends, and here they are to just ruin his fucking fun.
And let's we can all agree the Genesis is the best version of this game, right?
I'll go Super Nintendo.
I think it looks way better.
I go Super Nintendo. I appreciate the story in Genesis. I like the evil clones and whatnot. But I personally like the Super Nintendo. I feel like it's a little more easy to pick up and play. But that's just my opinion on that one. But it is worth noting at this point in 1993, a cumulative $450 million was made by just TMNT video games.
Really? Okay,
yes.
That's very interesting.
I thought that was an interesting tidbit to bring up. And then so this brings us to 2003. We'll start lightning round and stuff a little bit, unless you got more to add.
Yeah. No, I'm good. This is when we get to the 2003 cartoon games, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And
there's what is there? 3 of them?
2003. The game came out the same year as the series started, so they clearly already had an idea to go back into video games. At this point, they'd kind of been lacking a little bit for a few years.
Well, that was during kind of what I call the dark period.
Right. It is worth noting, on PlayStation 1, there is supposedly a long-lost Next Mutation video game that never was released.
I want that game.
I'm
not
familiar with that one.
Right. I haven't been able to find any footage or anything of it, but I did find a few articles.
Probably one that's
talking
in
about
development, my guess.
Right.
Like the Daredevil game we never got.
Right. And PlayStation 1 was super hit or miss for quality, so it could have either been like the thing of legend for how bad it is. You know, it was the Next Mutation after all. Or it could have actually been really good.
Oh, yeah.
But
I would have loved they would have done like a tactics type game.
Oh, yeah, that could have been fun.
That would have been great.
But so the 2003 game also had 2 sequels with Battle Nexus and Mutant Nightmare. All 3 of these games are great. They're beat 'em ups with a few extra bells and whistles because you get to do a little bit of platforming and things of that sort, boss battles. And it's more than just left or right. It's actual, completely realized 3D. Yeah. But it's not quite as deep as, some of the PS2 titles of the era, like God of War, Devil May Cry, or anything like that.
god-awful theme song.
Yes, that is actually...
1, 2, 3, 4.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles! Turtles got it all! Alright, that is actually how I know that theme is, because I played those games, because I ended up getting the first one for Christmas the year it came out, just because my parents were like, "Hey, Turtles!" and it's in. It'll be fun.
Also
which did lead me to learning something that's pretty cool about the first game. I don't know if the sequels did it, but so the first Ninja Turtle game on PlayStation 2 was one of the first games I remember playing that actually acknowledged the calendar in your system. And so if you played the game on, say, Christmas Day, like I did the first time, your turtle would be running around with a little Santa hat on.
Yeah.
Which just little touches like that I always appreciate. But on PlayStation 2, we also had in 2007 a video game based off of the 2007 film. Which is actually a pretty good game. It's single player, which is a little bit weird, again, to go back to that.
Yeah.
But you do still play as all the different turtles in that game. You get to play through the story of the movie.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but yeah.
But do you get to fight Raphael and Leonardo?
I don't think
That's
you
the
do.
awesome part about that movie.
I think maybe they throw that in there in a cutscene.
Yeah, I think
because they do kind of just use clips from the movie as cutscenes.
Yeah,
and probably have the same graphics,
right? So skipping ahead, so the 2012 series didn't have the most critically acclaimed video games, but it did have 2 games for home consoles with PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 era. Mm-hmm. And then there was also in 2017 an arcade game put out by Raw Thrills. It's very similar to the 2 past arcade games, so it's just a beat 'em up, but it is in the 2012 animated style. upcoming video games we have a Mutant Mayhem game coming out, which the publisher doesn't have the best track record. Now, publisher is different from developer, but if you look at their list of games, it's a lot of like little kid games, not like kid games, but little kid games.
You told me earlier before
like
recording,
Paw Patrol and Peppa Pig and things like that. Yeah. Doesn't mean that they're not capable of publishing.
Yeah, you never know.
Who knows who their developer's going to be?
This is going to be a different demo.
Right.
It's going to be a little bit older.
And then we also have a Last Ronin game coming out, which
what we're excited about.
Yes.
They're definitely pimping that out as in like this is essentially going to be Turtles Arkham Asylum,
and I think R-rated. I think
right.
R-rated.
And it's being published by THQ Nordic, who's got a great track record. But developed by Black Forest Games, which are known for doing more of the more recent Gianna Sister remasters and the Destroy All Humans remasters.
Yeah.
Along with the attempt of bringing everyone's favorite feline, Bubsy, back to the world of video games with the Woolies Strike Back.
What could possibly go wrong? I love Bubsy. That came out at the right time for me. So.
I always liked Bubsy, but oh my god, what was it? It was like Bubsy 3D, whichever one was on PlayStation.
3D, yeah.
One of the worst games ever made.
That's trash.
But I do want to take a few more minutes to talk about the newest Ninja Turtle game to be
I was about to
released.
bring that up if you had
with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, released in 2022, cross-platform, even recently just had physical copies released for the Switch, which was not originally part of its release, so including everybody into it.
Me and Jimmy just played that before we started recording, and I really enjoyed it. I was April O'Neil.
Yeah, I was Casey Jones, and it was pretty cool. Graphics look great. Some voices we all recognized. Thought it was pretty well done.
It was very much. You could definitely tell that they were fans of the arcade game and Turtles in Time.
Definitely.
Oh, it's a game that it stands on the shoulders of giants. 100%.
Yeah.
You can tell that it's a love letter to all the other past beat 'em up games.
And I already told Mike, me and him, we're going to play through it someday because I really enjoyed what I saw.
There's a lot of references from the '87 cartoon as well.
Oh, it's based in that world. That's why you have
people like Jones is very '87.
Vern and Vernon and Irma and the Neutrinos are in there. The Punk Frogs are in there.
Yep.
But yeah, I can't say enough good about that game. Even like the control scheme is amazing because you can play it as simple as you want with just smashing the attack button and occasionally jumping. But it has all kinds of other little different things you can do with the control scheme. They actually made use of every button, and it doesn't feel like they shoehorned in a use of every button. Every button has like a good use. Right. You can basically play that game as simple or as deep as you want, which I think is, I mean, that's all you want out of video games as far as a control scheme.
And the price tag's not too bad either.
Price tag's only $25 originally.
Oh, really? Yeah.
There was also recently DLC that came out that gave
Yokimbo.
It gave us Usagi Yokimbo. Did I say that right?
Maybe.
I don't. I put a little accent on there.
A little Latin there.
I'll just say
Japanese character.
Usagi and Karai are the DLC characters. It also gives you survival mode, which has a few new levels that are really just backgrounds as opposed to levels.
Yeah.
But one of those is actually based on the Mirage comics. It's black and white.
That I want to see. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. But the music in this game, oh my god, I cannot say enough about the music. I mean, it's got recognizable names in it. I mean, you have Mike Patton of Faith No More singing the Ninja Turtles theme
pretty cool.
to kick the game off.
I've seen them play before.
And then you have original tracks by Mega Ran. Then you have another one done by Ghostface Killer and Raekwon, bringing it back to Wu-Tang Clan.
Forever.
See, my mashup wasn't that far off. They've already worked together. And then also one of the songs, maybe my favorite song on the game, Panic in the Sky, the level I had you all play earlier with the real 80s sounding theme.
Yep.
Actually features YouTuber guitarist Johnny Atma is the one who's shredding things up on there. No idea who he is, but he kills it on that song.
Yeah.
The game was a massive success. It sold 1 million copies within the first week. And yeah, I just can't say enough kind things about the game. But I will try to stop myself from rambling. So there is our video games timeline.
It was also like one of the more lengthier
it's
turtle game
about 3 hours for a runtime, which is
actually really good for a turtle game.
Right, and then it just
it's $25 too.
And endless replayability.
Oh yeah,
I mean the fact that they actually added like leveling up in a Ninja Turtle game,
and there's
huge
challenges,
for me. Right,
stuff like that. Yeah,
and there's different skins you can unlock, and they're not the easiest to unlock. So you'll be spending a lot of time doing it.
Yeah, some of the challenges are not very easy either.
Oh, you mean like going through entire levels without getting hit once? Yeah, it's very frustrating.
Very frustrating, yeah. I have trouble doing it because my anxiety.
Yeah. Oh, I'll get to the end and I'll realize like, oh, hey, you've done really good, and you have son of a bitch.
Yep.
I'll just get hit while I'm thinking about not getting hit.
Yeah, one little laser beam hits you and it's like, fuck.
Yeah.
Before we end this episode today, I want to go over what Esports Illustrated, that's the video game portion of Sports Illustrated, that's apparently a thing.
Fair enough.
They gave their top 10 favorite TMNT video games earlier this year, and I just wanted to go over that list really quickly and see if you guys just agree with it.
All right.
Coming in at number 10 from 2004 on GameCube, Xbox, PS2, and the PC, TMNT 2 Battle Nexus.
I would probably put it a little higher than that, but it would definitely be on the list.
I put it on a list, yeah.
Number 9 from Game Boy is Radical Rescue, which we talked pretty good about that
if
earlier.
any of the Game Boy games. I don't know about the Game Boy Advance games because there were a couple that came out, but as far as like original Game Boy, the third one's the only one that belongs on this list.
I agree entirely.
Probably put it number 10 before I would 9 though.
I would put that probably 10 as well.
Number 8 is the original OG itself, the 1989 NES TMNT game. The original Konami. It's probably,
I think that's
you
fair.
started from there, you know?
Yeah. Oh, no, it needs to be on the list because it's not even that it's a bad game. It's just it's very frustrating and difficult.
Yeah. Be top 5 for me at least.
Oh,
fair.
Yeah.
Number 7 is the Manhattan Project from NES in 1991.
I'd put that top 5.
Yeah, I would too. I actually quite like Manhattan Project.
I did too.
That was probably my favorite NES Turtle game.
That was a great
I
game.
think so too.
Number 6 is the TMNT movie video game from 2007 for the Game Boy Advance.
Oh, okay. I've never actually played the GBA version of it.
I knew there was
Love
one.
the PlayStation 2 version.
I knew there was one, but I'd never played it myself.
And here are the top 5. Number 5, Hyperstone Heist, 1992 Sega Genesis game.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
A lot of people like that one, apparently. Number 4 is, we just talked about it, Shredder's Revenge from 2003.
Number 4, wow.
Personally, I think if I'm making a list and I'm being honest, that's my number 1. So it'd be in number 4. I don't agree with, but at least it's top 5.
I'd put it 3 for me.
Number 3 for them is Tournament Fighters from 1993.
Did they specify console? Oh, okay.
The Super NES version. So apparently they like that one the best.
100% don't agree with that one.
Yeah,
But
did they specify getting your ass kicked by...
I mean, if you put in the time and learn that game, who knows, it might be good and fun and rewarding, but it is...
Maybe.
I think y'all will agree with the top 2, though.
Okay.
Number 2... Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game, and number 1, Turtles in Time.
I agree.
Fair.
Yep.
I agree.
Yeah,
I definitely don't disagree with that. That wouldn't be my list, but I can't say I
would change
disagree
the
with
list
it.
around a little bit, but the top 2, I'm so...
I said those are my top 2. Shredder's Revenge will probably get in my top 3 after we play it some more in the future.
So
I think
good.
so.
I really enjoyed
Pretty
that.
impressive.
Yeah, like I said, I put that as number 3 for me, but yeah.
And for
Turtles
anybody
in Time,
listening,
number 1.
if you have Xbox Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, Shredder's Revenge is currently on both of those.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't even have to shell out the 25. Yeah, shell out. See what I did? Is that bad news?
That's why it is, but it's fine. Okay. That's why we pay you the big bucks.
Just $10, that's all.
We don't even pay them.
And then you get access to all the other games that
Yeah.
are on
Yeah.
Game Pass or PlayStation Plus.
Or you can do Game Pass for free monthly if you so choose and just cancel your
Oh,
subscription.
yeah. If you want to be a dick about
If you'll be
it.
a dick about it and not be like me and pay monthly.
Well, thank you once again for tuning into Turtlecast, and thank you, Mike and Jimmy, for taking us under your learning tree today to teach us about the toys and the video games of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Jimmy, tell people how they can keep track of our podcast.
Well, you can go online to Facebook and at the Turtlecast Facebook page. There's all kinds of updates there, not just updates about the podcast and new episodes, but updates about other things going on in the world of Ninja Turtles. So that's a good place to start. If you want to follow the podcast, and then when a new one comes in, it'll go right into your phone. You can go to your podcast of choice, which would be your Spotify's and your Apple or your Amazon podcasts, and follow us and give us likes. Maybe even give us a review. Give us 5 stars or how many stars, whatever their
5
system is. It's
At least 4.
Yeah, it's a much more less interesting system than something I would come up with.
Right.
But yeah, give us a grade, and yeah. Is that everything as far as how to get up with the podcast? Oh, Twitter! You can go. Oh, I'm sorry, X.
You can go
Elon
on
Musk
X. Is listening.
Yes, you can go on X.
No, he's not.
Give us a
How
search
cool would
out.
that be?
Search out Turtlecast on X and follow us, and there's will be updates there as well.
At Turtlecast 2023, I believe is the handle.
Nice. Next time will be our grand finale, and it's sure to be a doozy. Think of it as a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle potpourri of sorts. We're going to cover a little bit of everything. We're going to cover the things that we've been wanting to cover but didn't really fit into, the subjects we've done so far.
If you thought we seemed unorganized before.
It's going to be, it might be another 4-hour one, Jimmy.
It might be. A lot to talk about.
We're going to talk about some of the most bizarre moments in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle history. We're going to talk about coming out of their hold on. We're going to talk about coming out of their shells tour. We're going to talk about the next mutation. How about We Wish You a Turtle Christmas? Or that episode of Oprah that nobody can seem to get through. And you know what? I'm even going to tell you the full story of Hitler and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles adventures. All that and more, because there's going to be other stuff. I know. We might talk turtle pies even.
I know
Jimmy wants to talk turtle pies.
Well, we're talking the porn, so we're definitely talking turtle pies.
Oh, are we going to talk about the porn?
You said coming out of your shells.
That doesn't sound like a turtle pie.
Are we?
No, that's the porn.
We're going to need links to that one, Jimmy.
Well, you can definitely count on us.
This episode is going to be absolutely mental. It's going to be great. I cannot wait for it. So join us next time for the grand finale of Turtlecast. Cowabunga! Turtle power!
Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles
Radical.
are only on the Nintendo console. Nintendo, the world's #1 game system.